My name is Elena Carter, and I was 38 when my mother accused me of stealing from my injured brother. She made the accusation during a family dinner celebrating what everyone believed was Marcus's 6th year of sobriety. 12 relatives were seated around my parents' dining table in Asheville, North Carolina, when my mother rose with a glass of sparkling cider in her hand. To heal completely, she announced, a family must finally speak the truth. Her expression was solemn, almost saintly. Then she looked directly at me. Alina tried to take advantage of Marcus while he was vulnerable. She attempted to gain control of his disability benefits, and when we stopped her, she abandoned this family for nearly a year. No one interrupted her. My father studied his plate. My brother stared at the tablecloth. Uncle Raymond's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Even Pastor Helen, who had praised my mother's devotion for years, appeared to accept every word. I waited until my mother finished. Then I placed my napkin beside my plate and turned toward my aunt. "Aunt Vivian," I said calmly, "please open the blue folder." My mother's face changed instantly. She lunged across the table, knocking over a wine glass and sending a serving dish crashing to the floor. "Don't you dare open that!" Uncle Raymond caught her arm before she could reach Vivian. Everyone froze. Aunt Vivian rested the folder in front of her but did not open it immediately. She looked at me, waiting for confirmation. I nodded. The story contained inside that folder had begun 6 years earlier, when Marcus nearly died. Marcus was 3 years younger than me. As children, we were close, although our mother treated us very differently. Marcus had struggled with asthma, reading difficulties, and anxiety, so most of her attention went to him. I was the capable child. At 10, I prepared my own school lunches. At 13, I took the city bus to orthodontist appointments. At 17, I completed college applications without anyone checking them. Whenever relatives asked about me, my mother always gave the same answer. Alina's is fine. She has never needed much. In our house, being fine did not mean being happy. It meant learning not to ask. The one place where Marcus and I escaped our mother's influence was Laurel Bend, a quiet stretch of river near Pisgah National Forest. Our father took us fishing there every summer. Mother never joined us because she disliked insects, mud, and anything she could not control. When Marcus was 7, he caught a tiny rainbow trout. He named it Captain Blue and cried when Dad told him to release it. On the journey home, he made me promise never to tell anyone. More than a decade later, he sent me a message at 2 in the morning. "You're the only person who remembers Captain Blue." I saved that message. By then, I was living in Charlotte and working as a forensic accountant. My job involved tracing missing funds, reviewing suspicious transfers, and helping families protect vulnerable relatives from financial exploitation. I was very good at identifying dishonesty in other people's homes. It took me much longer to confront it in my own. Marcus's problems began after a construction accident in 2017. A steel support slipped while he was working at a commercial site outside Asheville. He twisted away from it, fell from a loading platform, and fractured 2 vertebrae. The doctors prescribed opioid painkillers. The prescription was supposed to last 8 weeks. Marcus's pain lasted much longer. He began obtaining extra pills from a coworker. When those became expensive, he bought whatever he could find. He concealed the addiction for almost 2 years, aided by our mother, who described every warning sign as a private medical matter. When Marcus lost his job after failing a drug test, she told everyone the company had downsized. When he stopped paying rent and returned to our parents' house, she said he was saving for a home. When he slept all day in their basement, she called it recovery. I visited regularly and watched him disappear inside oversized sweatshirts. Whenever I raised the subject, Mother shut me down. "I know my own son," she insisted. "Stop turning everything into an investigation." On April 9, 2020, I went downstairs to retrieve a suitcase before driving back to Charlotte. Marcus was lying beside his bed. His skin had a gray tint, and his breathing was barely detectable. I called emergency services while Mother stood behind me, asking whether we should tell the neighbors he had suffered an allergic reaction. The paramedics administered naloxone in the ambulance. Marcus survived. The following afternoon, a treatment center in Black Mountain agreed to admit him. Its residential program cost nearly $30,000, and my parents' insurance would not cover it. An admissions coordinator placed the financial guarantor form on the desk. Mother looked at Dad. Dad looked at me. I signed. During Marcus's 2nd week in treatment, I realized that revealing I was paying might hurt him. He carried enormous shame about needing help. If he knew his sister was spending her savings on his recovery, He might leave the program simply to stop being a burden. I also knew what Mother would do with the information. She would transform my payments into evidence of her sacrifice. By the following Sunday, the church would hear that she had somehow arranged everything, so I created the Laurel Bend Recovery Trust. Aunt Vivian, a retired attorney, agreed to serve as trustee. The trust paid providers directly, while Grace Community Church acted only as a confidential communication channel. Marcus was told that an anonymous donor had covered his treatment. The name Laurel Bend belonged to the childhood that addiction had not managed to destroy. Before agreeing to help, Vivian gave me one warning. If you remain anonymous, you may never be thanked. I'm not doing it for gratitude. Perhaps not, she replied, but silence has a cost too. Over the next 5 years, the trust paid for residential treatment, outpatient counseling, medication-assisted therapy, sober housing, work clothes, and transportation. When Marcus found employment at a garden supply store, it purchased the orthopedic boots he needed for his damaged back. The total eventually reached $134,800. Mother knew that assistance came through a private fund, but she did not know I was its only donor. Pastor Helen knew Vivian represented the fund, but even she did not know my identity. During those years, Mother created a public story in which she was responsible for Marcus's recovery. She spoke about him at church retreats and community events. She described the nights she had supposedly spent researching treatment programs. She accepted meals, sympathy, and praise. Grace Community Church appointed her to its outreach committee because people considered her an example of faithful motherhood. I remained a footnote. Alina lives in Charlotte, Mother would say. She has always preferred her career. In 2021, Marcus qualified for disability benefits because of his spinal injury. He received $1,920 per month. Mother persuaded him to deposit the payments into a joint account under both their names. It will be easier while you focus on staying well, she told him. For several months, nothing unusual happened. Marcus used the account for rent, groceries, and medical expenses. Then Mother established an automatic transfer. 4 days after every disability payment arrived, the entire amount moved into an account held solely in her name. Marcus never noticed because she intercepted the statements and repeatedly assured him that she was managing his finances. Meanwhile, the trust continued covering most of his recovery expenses. His disability money financed my parents' new screened porch, a Caribbean vacation, and Mother's frequent visits to an expensive cosmetic clinic. Dad knew more than he admitted. He once saw her making a transfer at the bank. He also found a trust envelope in my car while helping me replace a flat tire. He understood both sides of the truth and chose silence. I discovered that something was wrong in December 2024. During a visit home, Marcus pulled me aside in the garage. The clinic had contacted him about an overdue payment. Mother had told him the anonymous donor might have stopped supporting him. The trust had not missed a payment. The following morning, I asked Mother whether Marcus's disability benefits were still being deposited into the joint account. She kept washing a coffee cup. Everything is under control. It was not an answer, and we both knew it. I returned to Charlotte without confronting her further because I did not yet have evidence. Mother understood, however, that I had become suspicious. Within 48 hours, she contacted nearly every relative. She told Uncle Raymond that I had threatened her. She told our cousins that I was trying to seize Marcus's benefits. She asked a family friend who worked in mental health whether professional jealousy could cause a daughter to invent accusations against her mother. By the end of the week, Marcus had blocked my number. He sent one message first. "I know what you tried to do. Stay away from me and my money." I read it repeatedly, then placed my phone face down. I could have exposed everything. I possessed the trust records, invoices, and canceled checks. But revealing my role while Marcus was unstable would have turned his recovery into another battlefield. So I remained silent. For 11 months, I had no contact with my family. I continued financing Marcus's treatment through the trust and concentrated on my work. Then Mother became greedy. In August 2025, she called the public number listed for the Laurel Bend Recovery Trust. The call went to Vivian's legal assistant. Pretending to speak on Marcus's behalf, Mother requested a temporary suspension of his medication treatment payments because of what she called a private family decision. The assistant recorded the request, but did not immediately recognize the danger. Marcus arrived at his clinic 2 days later and learned that his account had been paused. Embarrassed and frightened, he left without receiving treatment. For several weeks, he attempted to manage the withdrawal and pain alone. He slept only a few hours each night. His hands shook at work. He told no one because Mother insisted the funding problem would soon be resolved. In October, Marcus found prescription painkillers in a coworker's backpack. He took 2 tablets. The moment the effect reached his body, he understood how close he was to losing everything. Before sunrise, he drove himself to Mission Hospital and admitted what he had done. He remained under observation overnight and called Aunt Vivian after his discharge. She took him to a small diner and ordered pancakes. For an hour, she allowed him to sit without explaining himself. Then she asked him to authorize access to his disability payment records and the joint bank account. Marcus agreed. The statements revealed 37 transfers totaling $71,040 from his joint account into Mother's personal savings. That should have been enough. But Mother provided the final piece herself. Several weeks after suspending Marcus's treatment, she attempted to claim a $25,000 charitable deduction for a donation she had supposedly made to his recovery fund. She emailed the church treasurer requesting an official acknowledgement letter. The treasurer found no record of any contribution from her and forwarded the request to Vivian. As trustee, Vivian reviewed every donation received since the fund's creation. Mother had contributed nothing. Vivian prepared a formal discrepancy notice explaining that the false claim would be reported to the tax authorities unless it was corrected. Then she visited my parents' house, pretending to help Mother search for receipts. In a desk drawer beneath stacks of church newsletters, Vivian found an old envelope addressed to Marcus's anonymous benefactor. The envelope had been opened. Inside was a 4-page letter Marcus had written 2 years earlier to thank the stranger who had supported his recovery. Mother had intercepted it and hidden it in her desk. Vivian called me that afternoon. "Your mother is hosting a sobriety dinner next month," she said. "You need to attend." Marcus relapsed. He had one lapse and immediately sought help. "Your mother doesn't know. She wants the celebration because it protects her reputation." Then Vivian told me about the bank records, false deduction, and stolen letter. For the first time in 11 months, I allowed myself to feel angry, not wild anger. Not the kind Mother could use as proof that I was unstable. Mine was cold, controlled, and patient. I agreed to attend the dinner. On November 22, I parked outside my parents' brick house carrying a pecan cake wrapped in my grandmother's linen cloth. Through the front window, I saw Mother laughing beside Pastor Helen. She looked radiant. The dining table had been arranged for 12. Mother placed my name card beside Dad, far from Marcus. Vivian quietly changed the seating so Marcus sat between us. Dinner began with prayer. Pastor Helen thanked God for restoration, courage, and a mother's unwavering love. Mother bowed modestly beneath the praise. Marcus barely ate. He had been sober for 41 days, not 6 years, but only Vivian and I knew. After dessert, Mother tapped her glass with a spoon and stood. She thanked Dad for his strength and Pastor Helen for her guidance. She called Marcus our living miracle. Then she turned toward me and delivered the accusation she had apparently rehearsed. She claimed I had tried to steal Marcus's benefits. She said my parents had protected him from me. She explained that my absence proved I cared more about money than family. When she finished, several relatives looked at me with open disgust. That was when I asked Vivian to open the folder. Mother's sudden attack on the evidence exposed her before a single page was read. Uncle Raymond held her arm until she returned to her chair. Pastor Helen spoke first. "Let Vivian continue." My aunt opened the folder and removed 3 documents. The first is Cynthia Carter's request for acknowledgement of a $25,000 charitable donation, she said. The second is the church treasurer's confirmation that no such donation exists. The third is the Laurel Bend Recovery Trust's notice concerning a potentially fraudulent tax deduction. Mother shook her head. It was anonymous. Vivian remained composed. "I have administered every anonymous donation to that fund. You never gave it $1. Uncle Raymond leaned forward. "What exactly is the Laurel Bend Recovery Trust?" Vivian looked at me. I gave her permission with a nod. "It is the organization Elena created after Marcus's overdose," she explained. "For more than 5 years, it has paid every major expense connected with his recovery. Elena is its sole donor. Her contributions total $134,800. Marcus turned toward me, his face emptied of color. "No," he whispered. I did not answer. Vivian placed the complete ledger in front of him. Each payment included a date, provider, and receipt number. He examined the first page, then the second. Mother interrupted. She did that to control him. I finally spoke. I never controlled his treatment, contacted his doctors, or asked him for repayment. You, however, took control of his disability account. Vivian removed the bank statements. She aligned them with the government payment history so every deposit and transfer could be compared. $1,920 arrived each month, she said. 4 days later, the full amount moved to Cynthia's private account. 37 transfers, $71,040. Marcus stared at Mother. You said my benefits were paying for my rent. They were family funds, she replied. We fed you, we housed you. The trust paid the clinic. Elena paid the sober house. I worked for everything else. What did you spend my money on? Mother looked toward Dad. He seemed to shrink in his chair. Marcus followed her gaze. Dad, did you know? Dad folded his napkin. Answer him, Uncle Raymond said. Dad's voice was barely audible. I saw one of the transfers at the bank. Later, I found an envelope from Laurel Bend in Zilla's car. I understood she was involved. You knew Elena was helping me while Mom was stealing from me? I told myself it was between the three of you. Marcus's expression hardened. No, Dad. You told yourself silence was easier. Vivian then produced the old envelope. She placed it in front of Marcus. I found this in your mother's desk. He recognized his handwriting and opened it carefully. As he read, his hands began trembling. Mother had not only taken his money, she had stolen his opportunity to thank the person who helped him live. He reached the last page and covered his mouth. I wrote this 2 years ago. I never received it, I said. Marcus looked at Mother. You read it? She gave no answer. That letter wasn't yours. I was protecting you. From thanking my sister, the room became painfully quiet. Pastor Helen walked around the table and stopped beside Mother. For years, she had defended her, praised her, and offered her leadership positions based on a manufactured story. Cynthia, she said, you allowed this church to honor you for sacrifices your daughter made. You accepted sympathy while excluding her. You used your son's illness to build your reputation. Mother's eyes filled with tears, but Pastor Helen did not soften. Effective immediately, you will step down from the outreach committee and the family support ministry. Church leadership will review the financial and ethical concerns next week. Mother accused everyone of betraying her. She called Vivian vindictive, Marcus ungrateful, and me calculating. No one defended her. Marcus left his chair and sat beside me. He placed the letter between us. I called you a thief. You believed someone you trusted. I should have asked you. Yes, I said gently. You should have. He began to cry. I took his hand, but I did not tell him everything was fine. Some moments should not be softened with a lie. During the weeks that followed, the consequences unfolded quietly. The church removed Mother from every leadership position. The tax authorities reviewed her false charitable deduction. Marcus filed a formal financial exploitation complaint and revoked her access to his benefits. Through a repayment agreement, my parents were required to return the stolen money. Dad called me repeatedly. I did not answer until he appeared outside my apartment in January. I'm sorry, he said. For which part? For not stopping her. That isn't all you did. You watched me become the family villain because correcting the lie would have made your life uncomfortable. He lowered his eyes. I was afraid of what would happen to our marriage, and you decided your daughter was an acceptable price. He had no answer. I did not invite him inside. Marcus and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. We met first at a diner halfway between Asheville and Charlotte. He confessed that his sobriety date had restarted after the pills. I'm not 6 years sober, he said. You're alive, honest, and receiving treatment. That matters more than a number on a cake. The next month, he resumed therapy. This time, he knew where the money came from. Accepting my help was difficult for him, but he stopped treating gratitude like debt. He enrolled in a community college program for building inspection, a career that used his construction experience without worsening his injury. When he moved into a new apartment, we spent an entire Saturday assembling furniture and arguing over instructions. For the first time since childhood, being together felt easy. The following spring, we drove to Laurel Bend. The river was high from several days of rain. We sat on the same broad rock where Marcus had once cried over Captain Blue. He carried the intercepted letter in his jacket. I want to read it to you, he said. His voice remained steady until the final paragraph. Whoever you are, I hope I become someone worth the faith you placed in me. You gave me help without asking me to perform gratitude. One day, I want to do the same for someone else." When he finished, neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, he looked at me. "Were you ever sorry you saved me?" "No, even after I believed her. Saving you and forgiving you are different things. I never regretted the first. The second required time." He nodded because he understood. Later that year, we expanded Laurel Bend into a legitimate public nonprofit providing financial guidance to families affected by addiction. Marcus joined its advisory board. He insisted that our first program teach relatives how to identify financial exploitation involving disability benefits. At the opening event, he stood before a small audience and spoke without hiding his relapse or decorating his recovery. "My sister did not rescue me once," he said. "She protected my chance to rescue myself repeatedly. And when I believed a lie about her, she kept paying for the treatment that allowed me to survive long enough to learn the truth." Mother did not attend. Dad stood at the back of the room. He did not approach me, and I did not invite him forward. Perhaps one day our relationship would change. Apologies, like recovery, mattered only when supported by action. After everyone left, Marcus and I remained beside the nonprofit's new sign. Under the name Laurel Bend was a sentence he had chosen: "Help does not need applause to be real." For years, my mother had mistaken visibility for goodness. She believed the person telling the story owned the truth. She never understood that records remember what people try to rewrite. I had spent most of my life being called the child who needed nothing. In reality, I had needed honesty, protection, and parents courageous enough to defend me. I never received those things from them. But I stopped waiting. My mother's lies cost me nearly a year with my brother. They damaged relationships that may never fully heal. Yet they also taught me something I should have understood much earlier. Silence can preserve another person's dignity, but it should never be allowed to protect someone's cruelty. I did not win because Mother lost her reputation. I won when Marcus learned the truth and chose to rebuild his life. I won when the money taken from him was placed back under his control. I won when the organization born in secrecy began helping other families speak openly. Most of all, I won when I stopped measuring my worth by whether my family believed me. Mother had stood at that dinner expecting her accusation to erase me permanently. Instead, one blue folder erased the story she had spent years creating. And for the first time in my life, I was no longer merely fine. I was free.